Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Gusto Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-Dawn of Majesty. With the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Set, we were given more than enough new support to definitely revamp the Gusto deck as a whole. I think we got 5 or 4 cards in total, but with it we got a new Synchro monster support in the main deck, spells, you name it, enough cards to really pump up the power of this deck altogether, and I'm very, very happy with the results. Its playstyle is just the recycle monster playstyle that you remember from the original Gusto playstyle, with added power in the form of all the new support we received. And with it, all this wind support, it's probably one of my favorite attributes to play in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, next to Speedroys, Stardust Dragon, Gustos, all being wind attribute, are just a bunch of fun combo decks to use and utilize with synchro monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the main deck monsters, starting off with probably the best one in the deck, and that is Pilika, Descendant of Gusto. When this card is normal or special summon, you can target one wind tuner monster in your graveyard, special summon that target in face-up defense position. Its effects are negated. If you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except for wind monsters. You can only use this effect of Pilika once per turn. So with this, you have your main go-to setup for a lot of different synchro plays, with our new main boss monster for the synchros, Daigusto Lamplam Pilika, being a level 6. So if you go for a level 3 tuner, you have a 1-card combo play to summon out that card onto the field. And not just Lamplam Pilika, but also Daigusto Freeze, one of our original level 6 monsters in the deck also. So with this, and also for the fact that this card is an emergency teleport target, makes it that much stronger of a card. It can just make your play go right from there with that special summon, or just with the resource of summoning it onto the field with your normal summon. I also run 3 of the new Gusto Vidir. If a face-up Gusto monster on the field is destroyed by battle or sent to your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send one Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you can special summon one Gusto monster from your hand. You can only use each effect of Gusto Vidir once per turn. So once again, a card that combos with Pilika, being able to summon out Vidir, then special summon Pilika after you use the send of Vidir, then using your Pilika to special summon that other monster gives you the tuner play with these 2 cards on the field, and the additional Gusto monster to start off the destruction play all together for your summons. It's very, very scary what this card alone can do with Pilika, so you definitely want to run 3 of it, so you always have this resource available to readily use. I also run 3 Gusto Griffin with this card. If a card is sent from the hand to your graveyard, you can special summon one Gusto monster from your deck. You can only use this effect of Gusto Griffin once per turn. So all you have to do is send this card from your hand to the graveyard. You have plenty of cards for that option, with this one being able to set up more and more, along with some of our other wind attribute cards we run on the deck, like Wind, the Wind Chandler. With this card comboed with it, you get the search off of Wind, but also the special summon of a Gusto monster off of Griffin. So this card originally wasn't used that much in the Gusto deck, but with the new playstyle we have, this card definitely adds more to the offensive power of the deck as a whole. So you definitely want to run 3 of it, so you always have this option available. It's not a tuner, so remember that with this card, but still great for being able to special summon out the tuners. I also run 3 Gusto Guldo. With this one, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower Gusto monster from your deck. So this card starts off the chain of special summons, and I'll go over the play at the end of the video of what you can do and accomplish with this card and all the special summon power. With this card being able to just go with more and more summons, you can rely on it for basically filling up your graveyard with plenty of resources, but it'll also be the main go-to card you want to send and then special summon off of your Gusto Vidir, being part of the combo play with Pilika. I also run 3 Gusto Egal, one of the cards you can special summon off of Gusto Guldo, being the level 2 or lower monster, but this one then allows you to go even more with the plays, being able to summon one non-tuner level 4 or lower Gusto monster from your deck. So whether you just go for an easy target like Gusto Griffin, or even for one of the non-tuner options being Pilika to give you another special summon onto the field, you have plenty to use with Gusto Egal. Another 3 of, so you always have the resources to go into, because these cards just chain off of each other and go into resources very, very quickly. And if your opponent were to banish any from the graveyard, you always want to have backup resources to use also. For some of the lower numbers for the Gusto monsters in the deck, I run 1 Winda, Priestess of Gusto, and 1 Cam, Serenity of Gusto. I never thought I'd reduce the number of Winda in the deck, but with the new Gusto Vidir, it just is that much more of a needed resource than Winda, where Winda is more, specific of a situation when it's destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster. So with that, you have a special summon of a Gusto Tuner, and once again, it has to be an opponent's attacking monster. So if you swing into your opponent with Winda, you're not going to get the special summon. And Cam is in here as being a searchable card off of Win the Wind Chandler, and also being able to recycle Gusto monsters back into the deck once per turn for draw power. For some of the other additional wind support, running 3 of the Win the Wind Chandler. With this card, you can discard this card and then 1 other wind monster to add 1 wind monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, except for Win the Wind Chandler. Also, you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except for wind monsters, which isn't really a problem in this deck since we're running majority wind monsters. And also, with this card, when a wind monster you control is destroyed by battle, or while this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card. So giving you another resource on the field as a level 5 monster for some of the higher level synchro plays. But I use it mostly for the search, and once again comboed with Gusto Griffin, you'll get the search off of Win the Wind Chandler and then the special summon off of Gusto Griffin when it's sent from the hand to the graveyard. For some of the lower numbers, for more of the control play and also for the fact that it is searchable off of Win the Wind Chandler, I run 2 Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. This will just shut your opponent down. It won't stop any of your plays because the majority of plays we use in the deck are wind special summons, but this setup on the field can definitely take away a lot from your opponent because they have to just rely on wind special summons, and with it you can just protect your own monsters from being destroyed. And with this card having that play, you just have it so your wind monsters are the only options available on the field. For some of the other monsters to summon out, I also run kind of a kaiju engine. If you wanted to go for more of the limitations, you can run the Mothra kaiju because of the shutdown that your Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. If that were the case, you could take out these 3. I run them more for the higher attack to combo with Daigusto Freeze and Lafra Pilica. But if you want to go for, like I said, the special summon option still for that card, you could put in the Mothra one as 3 copies instead of these individual kaijus. It's player preference also, or just what you have readily available. With the last of the monsters in the main deck being 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, you just have more of that shutdown power against your opponent. You have a lot of cards that can just be a 1-card combo, so having the hand trap of choice just be this card. I thought of Nibiru giving your opponent a monster for you to then attack with Daigusto Freeze and all your other Gusto monsters while they take the damage, but then you get rid of your own summons for the tribute, so you don't really have much of an option there. So that's why I decided just to go for the shutdown of any of your opponent's plays with Ash Blossom. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. One of the best spells in the deck is Tailwind of Gusto. You equip only to a Gusto monster. The equipped monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and you can only use each of the following effects of Tailwind of Gusto once per turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard to discard 1 wind monster to add 1 Gusto spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can activate this effect based on the level of the rank or of the equipped monster. If it's 4 or lower, special summon 1 Gusto monster from your deck with a different type from the equipped monster, or if it's 5 or higher, special summon 1 level 1 tuner from your deck. So with this equip spell, you have the search power from the graveyard to add a Gusto spell or trap, which can also be this card itself off of the search. For the discard, setting up Gusto Griffin from your hand for more special summons once again, but the special summon of another Gusto tuner from our deck when equipped onto one of our Gusto main synchro monsters just makes this card that much more scary, and a 3-of for sure for all those plays. For some more of the search power, I run 1 contact with Gusto. This one is you target 2 Gusto monsters in your graveyard and 1 card your opponent controls. Shuffle both targets into the graveyard, into the deck, then destroy the opponent's target. This is just another searchable card off of Tailwind of Gusto. So let's say you're on the last one of this card. It can be the search target to go for with that 1 of search. It's why I'm only running 1 of it, so we have additional searches with Tailwind of Gusto, and being a card that can be used to destroy a card that, let's say, shutting down your own special summons that your opponent may be using. I also run for more of the generic staples 2 Foolish Burial Goods. This can quickly set up Tailwind of Gusto in the graveyard for you to use for the banished search. So I like to run 2 of this as an option for setting up that spell in the graveyard that much more quickly. And I also run 1 emergency teleport, just being able to summon out Pilica that much more quickly. It's definitely a staple in the deck. 1 Call by the Grave, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and the 1 Foolish Sparrow. The Foolish Sparrow is in here for setting up a monster target if I only open up Pilica as the only monster that can really start play, so I can have at least 1 tuner in the graveyard ready to go if I didn't open up something like Gusto Vidir in my hand also. And then that is it for the spells. As for the traps, the only trap I'm running is 1 Whirlwind of Gusto. It's just another special summon option. If my opponent, let's say after all my special summoning, Nibiru's me, then being able to, if I control no the monsters, if they get rid of the token, being able to recycle the Gustos back into the deck to give me 1 on the field to at least have the Gusto wall reactivated again to use against my opponents. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck, running 2 of the new Daigusto Lamplam Pilica. You need 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Gusto monsters. You can special summon this card once per turn. If this card is synchro summon, you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your hand and 1 Gusto monster from your deck, but negate their effects. Then immediately after this effect resolves, special summon 1 Gusto synchro monster using only those 2 monsters. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except for win monsters, and your opponent cannot target other Gusto synchro monsters you control with card effects. So our next Gusto monster is the ideal target to go into with this special summon, making it so your Gusto monsters on the field will basically be indestructible, with that monster being Daigusto Freeze. With this card, when it's synchro summon, you can target a Gusto monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Your opponent takes any battle damage you would have from your Gusto monsters, and also your Gusto monsters can't be destroyed by battle. So having Lamplam Pilica on the field and then Freeze, not being able to be destroyed by battle, not being able to be destroyed by card effects, or targeted by card effects. So with that, you have the protection wall against your opponent, and then the additional search with other cards for that setup just means more and more plays to go into. For some of the lower numbers, I run 1 Daigusto Guldos and 1 Daigusto Agal. The level 5 and level 7 synchro options are readily available just for the recycle power of the Gusto monsters in the graveyard to shuffle back into the deck and then to either destroy a face-up card monster or a face-down card that my opponent may control, depending on what I need for the destruction. For more of the generic wind synchro monsters, I run 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, 1 Clearwing Synchro Dragon, 1 High-Speed Roid Chanbara, 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and 1 Mistworm. All good win targets, aren't limited at all when I have the win restriction on the field. And for the Link monsters, following the same trend, the 1 Greatfly, the 1 Wind, the Wind Charmer, the 1 High-Speed Roid Rubber Band Shooter, just more wind options, and lastly the 1 Appaloosa. Just remember this is a wind monster, so another one you can summon out on the field with no wind attribute restriction for this card either. And then as for the go-to plays, as we spoke of before, the Gusto Vidir definitely sets up a play with this card being normal or special summon. You can send 1 Gusto monster from your deck to your hand, then being able to special summon 1 Gusto monster from your hand. So if you open up Pilica and Vidir in your hand, what you'll do is you'll summon out your Gusto Vidir, with this card being able to send 1 Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard. So you'll set up one you'll want to summon back out, so you can summon out Gusto Guldo. Then you will special summon your Pilica, Descendant of Gusto, special summoning the Guldo back onto the field. If it's your opponent already has a monster on the field, you'll leave them all in attack position. You'll then synchro summon with Pilica and your Gusto Vidir, giving you the option to special summon out your Daigusto Lamplam Pilica. With the special summon of this card, you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your hand and 1 from your deck. So if you have the additional monster in your hand, depending on what you summon from the deck, you can go for that additional summon onto the field. Ideally, the play would be another Guldo or a Vidir and then another Pilica from your deck. You've already used the once per turn for Pilica, so you'll use these 2 cards for the synchro summon of your Daigusto Freeze, having the setup for your opponent taking any battle damage you may have, and the Lamplam Pilica protecting them from being targeted by card effects. So battle, card effects, and any damage that you would have taken from Gusto monsters they'll take. So then you can swing in with the Guldo you special summoned off of the Vidir, destroying the Guldo if their monster was in attack position, then using that summon to give you 1 additional Gusto monster on the field, and with it, after this one is destroyed, special summoning a non-tuner Gusto monster. You can either go for Winda for them to attack into, or your Gusto Griffin. You won't get the search power, but it'll be another low attack point monster that can swing into for some pretty heavy damage. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Gustos are one of my favorite decks from the dual terminal storyline. So once again, I'm very happy with the new support we received for the deck. It's definitely going to help to power it up as a whole. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.